staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? A very happy Monday. Very rainy, by the way, in Las Vegas over the course of the last couple days. Very strange. But anyway, we're sunny in studio. What's going on, everybody? You could be listening on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, of course, the FM AM dial KSHP, my personal YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. We're about 1,500 subscribers short of 100,000. Hopefully we'll get there today or tomorrow. We appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, do we have a lot to get to today. Great journalist Aaron Rupar is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes to talk about what was a very crazy interview on Meet the Press with Miss Welker. Now, I want to play you some of this interview, but I can tell you he said a lot of crazy things over the weekend. He says a lot of crazy things on a regular basis. He's talking a little bit about the possibility that he might be reopening Alcatraz. He talked about 100% tariffs on movies that are made outside the United States. I mean, a lot of insane stuff that Donald Trump is talking about in this interview. And listen, I'm not a big Welker fan. I don't think she's great. I didn't think she pushed back enough on Donald Trump. We'll get to that. But this is the point in the interview where she asked Donald Trump about the Constitution, and I'm not sure any answer could get more unconstitutional than this one. Have a listen to this.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
So it's pretty simple to me. It doesn't get more unconstitutional than that answer that Donald Trump gave. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. No, he does know. And what he's doing is more anti-constitution. Okay? That's just the bottom line. It is anti-constitution. It is anti-America. It is anti-rule of law. That is who Donald Trump is. And now it gets to the point of the interview where we're talking about this crypto scandal. We know that Donald Trump is making billions of dollars. Literally, Donald Trump is making billions of dollars off this crypto scandal. And Donald Trump tells the American people, oh, I really haven't looked at that. Is there anybody that believes this answer? Have a listen to this.
You're not profiting off of the cryptocurrency?
I haven't even looked.
Has your family?
I'll tell you what, look, if I own stock in something and I do a good job and the stock market goes up, I guess I'm profiting. But who really profits is somebody like Nancy Pelosi, who uses inside information. She worked for $175,000 a year, and that's at the high end, and she's worth $150, $200 million. Okay? You ought to look at Nancy Pelosi, and you ought to look at some of these politicians that are stone cold crooks. I was very wealthy when I came in. Being president, I probably cost me money if you really look.
What a joke. First of all, he starts talking about Nancy Pelosi. See, in the world of politics, that's what we would call a pivot. She didn't ask him about Nancy Pelosi. And by the way, the idea that he lost money as president is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. He's made billions of dollars dating back all the way to 2016. Literally, billions of dollars. He made $500 million in campaign contributions when he said he was going to fight election fraud after the 2020 election. He put that all in his back pocket. The question wasn't about Nancy Pelosi. Listen, Nancy Pelosi became rich. Okay, you want to look into that? People can look into that. But Donald Trump has literally made billions of dollars with his Trump Bibles. Donald Trump has made billions of dollars with his trading cards and now his crypto scandal. He specifically asked about this crypto scandal, and his response, I haven't really taken a look at that. Have I made money? Is there literally anybody in there that believes a word that this guy says? And here's Donald Trump going into a diatribe about how he donates and contributes his salary to the government. Meanwhile, we're talking about a $400,000 a year salary when literally the guy is literally making billions of dollars off of his crypto scandal now. But he's saying, well, look at this. I contribute my salary to the government because the MAGA people out there actually believe the words that he says. They believe him. Listen to this.
I do something that no other president has done. They think maybe George Washington has done. I contribute my entire salary to the government, back to the government.
So will you contribute anything you earn from crypto back to the government? If that
I
happens?
never thought of that. I mean,
I bet he hasn't.
Should I contribute all of my real estate that I've owned for many years if it goes up a little bit because I'm president and doing a good job? I don't think so.
Okay.
Makes me sick to hear that. I haven't really thought about that. No, the real response is no, I'm not going to be giving any of the billions of dollars I make back to the government because he's selfish, because he's always been it for himself. Why is it that so many people out there struggle to understand the fact that the only reason why Donald Trump ran for president first go around was to help him? It was to benefit him. It was to benefit his brand. And then when he actually won, he figured out ways to cheat. He figured out ways to literally take money from the taxpayers. It's why every single time he goes on vacation, he's going to Mar-a-Lago or he's going to a golf course that he owns because his company is the one that makes money off of it. Your hard-working money, your taxpayer money is going towards Donald Trump and going in his back pocket. It's a joke. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's disgusting. Ever since Donald Trump got into office, the only person that he's ever cared about is himself. He doesn't care about the American people. He likes the word tariff. You think he cares that so many people in this country are struggling and that there are small business owners that are losing their jobs? Do you think he cares? Do you think he cares about you? He cares about me? Look at the people that are hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. Look at the people, the white, rich elitists. And yet MAGA Republicans want to say that it's the liberals that are the rich elitists. No, it's Donald Trump and the people that hang out around him. It's why I say this all the time, that his administration is worth around $60 billion, and that does not include Elon Musk. And don't even get me started with Donald Trump talking about tariffs. You know, this is Donald Trump asked by Welker about the whole tariff situation, and he keeps saying that companies will eat the tariffs and it's not passed along at all, which is, by the way, not true. It's the American consumer that are the people that are going to be struggling, that are going to be eating on these tariffs. Listen to him try to explain this, and then when it comes to China.
What people don't understand is, and this is a lot, the country eats the tariff. The company eats the tariff. And it's not passed along at all.
Well, some CEOs are saying they're going to have to pass it on. So how do you deal with those CEOs?
But the company,
how do you deal with those CEOs?
China is eating the tariffs right now.
What do you say to those CEOs who are saying we might have to pass this on to the consumer?
Well, they say that because maybe it's to their advantage to say it.
Will
Maybe
you punish them?
No, because you know what? I want them to build plants in the United States. That way they don't have any tariffs. See, tariffs will, and not only will, look at what's happened. In 2 months, we're close to $9 trillion of investment. We've never been anywhere near that.
Absolutely absurd. There's a reason why we've never been anywhere near these kinds of tariffs. Oh, yeah, by the way, small tidbit for you. It's why President Xi won't even pick up the phone to speak to Donald Trump. And then he's speaking a tough game like China is eating these tariffs. China's imposing these tariffs on us. It's the American consumer that is the one that is struggling. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. They won't even speak to Donald Trump. And yet Donald Trump and members of his administration, remember when they said 90 deals in 90 days? We're going on almost 3 weeks now. 0 deals. He's a liar. He doesn't care about the American people. He doesn't care about certainly those that are struggling, that are living paycheck to paycheck. He tells you every single day in so many words. Why won't you pay attention? Why won't you believe him? He doesn't care about the American people. He only cares about himself. And then when things don't go his way or things don't go right for the country, he'll blame Joe Biden. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a moment. This is the part, again, in the interview. And it's my understanding that Meet the Press didn't even air this part of the interview, but yet he wants to file a lawsuit against 60 Minutes for editing video when Meet the Press did the exact same thing. Here's Donald Trump literally once again lying to the American people, not admitting that he lost the 2020 election.
You know, my 4 years were phenomenal, as you know, the stock market. In fact, even though we had to go through the COVID thing, that horrible situation with COVID, we did numbers. And when I gave it over, when I handed it over, the election was rigged. And because of that, we have a lot of problems, by the way. But when I handed it over, what happened? The market was higher than it was previous to COVID coming in. Yeah. Nobody could believe it. The stock market I'm talking about.
I don't want to look back, but you did take your case to court about that.
Back.
You took your case to court about your allegations against the election. Let me ask you,
There's
sir.
no question about it. The election was rigged. The facts are in, and it's still being litigated. Let's go.
You did take your case to court more than 60 times and didn't win those cases.
I won a lot of court cases.
Just to button that up, though, sir. Just to button that up.
What are you talking about?
How
the election
worried are you?
Are we talking about the election?
Let's talk about here and now. Let's talk about
the
here
election
and now.
of 2020.
Let's not talk about. Let's talk about here and now.
I just don't understand Welker. She's just so terrible. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. She's terrible. She's terrible on Meet the Press. And notice how she just jumps over that. Again, you have the first president in American history that has yet to concede an election, and you have Donald Trump still saying it was rigged. Oh, yeah, by the way, it wasn't. And he says the facts are in. What the hell does that mean? Does that mean if I say the earth is flat and I say the facts are in because Kyrie Irving says the earth is flat, does that mean the earth is flat? No, the facts are not in. Not according to him. The facts are in that Joe Biden won a free and fair election, and it's proven once again that Donald Trump can't get over it. He can't get over the fact that he lost the 2020 election. And this is the guy who's the president of the United States. And I'll say it again, Welker's awful at her job. She's terrible. I would have pressed him on that and said, why can't you get over the fact that you lost? Why can't you get over the fact you lost about anything? Don't you think that's problematic that you're the only president in American history that has yet to concede an election? But when he wins, everything seems to go okay. And yet so many of his supporters still believe it. And here comes the part where he's starting to talk about eggs. Okay, here he goes starting to talk about eggs. Let me be very clear on this. Since day one, when Donald Trump took office, eggs are higher than they were. Okay, eggs might have dropped down the last 2 weeks, but he keeps saying eggs are down 94%. That would mean eggs would be about 50 cents a dozen. They're not. They're over $3 a dozen. They are not down since day one. Welker does a terrible job in any sort of pushback again. But this is Donald Trump talking about egg prices. Have a listen to this.
People, it didn't matter what they made because they were losing their shirt because of costs. Now take a look at what happened. Oil is down, gasoline is down, groceries are down, eggs. You were the one that asked me. You asked me about eggs. It was the first week. I didn't even know anything about what were you talking about. Egg prices were so high you couldn't buy eggs. They didn't have any eggs. And they said Easter is going to be a disaster. Well, we had Easter at the White House, and we had thousands of eggs, and they were down 87%.
Yeah, a lot of that, of course, spike was because of bird flu. But when does it become the Trump economy?
Why do you say that?
Well, tell me,
we had the same bird flu as he had.
You had the same bird flu as he had. Well, good. I'm glad Donald Trump is making the argument for me. See, because during the Biden administration, every MAGA Republican was blaming Joe Biden for inflation. Every MAGA Republican was blaming Joe Biden for the price of eggs. And for people that say the price of eggs have significantly dropped, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Now, have they dropped since day one, since Donald Trump took office? No, they haven't. They're up. You could look that up if you don't believe me. Are they down in the last few weeks? Yes. I don't blame Donald Trump for egg prices. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it was Donald Trump and all of his MAGA Republican friends that were blaming Joe Biden for the price of eggs. And you see, Donald Trump campaigned on, I'm going to lower the price of inflation. I'm going to lower the price of gas. I'm going to lower the price of eggs. He has not done that since day one, since he took office. If you don't believe me, you can look that up for yourself. It's mentally exhausting to have to explain this to MAGA Republicans over and over again. Donald Trump is lying. He said he would lower the price on day one. He has not done that. We're not talking about the last couple of weeks. We're talking about since day one, when Donald Trump took office, gas prices have not dropped. Since day one, since Donald Trump has took office, the price of eggs have not dropped. Since day one, since Donald Trump has took office, up 0.5% inflation. Those are the stats. If you don't believe me, you can look that up yourself. And quite frankly, it is not my job to continue to have to fact check you MAGA Republicans every single day. I've had it, quite frankly. If you believe his lies, you can go ahead and you can believe that. But America and Americans and those that are suffering, that are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck, are the ones that are suffering because you are naive enough to believe every single word that Donald Trump says. I'm not blaming Donald Trump for the price of eggs. I think the bird flu has a lot to do with it. But you guys are the ones that blame Joe Biden for the price of eggs. You guys were the ones that blame Joe Biden for inflation when we have a war in Ukraine. Oh, yeah, a war that Donald Trump said he would end within 24 hours. How's that working out? We were just coming out of COVID. We still have the war. We have the situation going on in the Middle East. Inflation was up all over the world, but you wanted to blame Joe Biden for everything. But then when Donald Trump takes office and he campaigns on, I'm going to lower inflation on day one, I'm going to end the war in 24 hours, and that doesn't happen, then you want to go ahead and you want to blame Joe Biden, or you want to say, well, Donald Trump was just being sarcastic, right, when he said the war was going to be over in 24 hours. I'm so sick of the hypocrisy from all of you people on the MAGA right. It's sickening to me, and it's disgusting, and I've had it. And you want to speak about disgusting? This is Donald Trump in a nutshell. If things go bad, he's going to blame Joe Biden. He's going to blame Pete Buttigieg. He's going to blame Barack Obama. He's going to blame migrants. He's going to blame brown people. If things go good, it's all because of me. This is the point in the interview that really sets the tone for who Donald Trump is and how full of crap he is when she's asked him, when is it going to be the Trump economy? Have a listen to this.
A deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. From his auto pen, which I'm sure he knew nothing about some of the things he was supposedly signing.
But, sir, you acknowledge when you announced your tariffs, for example, the stock market dropped. It's been volatile. It has since gone up.
It is,
Do you take responsibility for that? Yeah. Do you take responsibility when it drops?
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only just been here for a little more than 3 months.
Ultimately, I take responsibility for everything, but I've only been here for 3 months. Coming from the guy who said on day one he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. On day one, he would lower the price of inflation. But now all of a sudden, 3 months into it, give me more time. This is what he campaigned on. It is a joke. It's an embarrassment that people believe this despicable man. It's embarrassing that there are so many people in this country that believe him. Now, you want to talk about one of the dumbest, I guess you could call that one of the dumbest ideas that Donald Trump has ever had, and he's had quite a few of them, by the way. He's asked on Air Force One over the weekend about the possibility of reopening Alcatraz. Now, I'll explain to you why this is so stupid, but this is Donald Trump, and apparently he got this idea from a right-wing actor on social media, which, again, is absurd. This is where they get their information from right-wing cuckoos on social media. He's thinking now about reopening Alcatraz. I'll explain to you why this is such a stupid idea, but have a listen to this.
General Smith! I saw a friendly face over here. Well, we gave some information on the plane. I think we covered everything carefully and in great detail. You probably have seen it. Have you seen the information from the plane?
Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, you know, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, you know, it's got quite a history, frankly. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
Absolutely absurd. By the way, Alcatraz reopening Alcatraz would cost the American taxpayer somewhere around the vicinity of $250 million. He talked about millions of people. Alcatraz would hold somewhere under 400 people, and he's talking about millions of people. He has a lot of dumb ideas, but this is certainly one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. So to talk to us a little bit about this, he's been on it. He's been interview and he's been on it. All the ridiculous things that Donald Trump has said, particularly just over the course of the last few days. His name is Aaron Rupar. He's a great journalist, and his newsletter, Public Notice, is absolutely awesome. Aaron, it is a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Thanks so much for being here again, as always. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good, Aaron. A lot to talk to in a short period of time. I appreciate you coming on, as always. Let me just start with Alcatraz. It appears as though he got this idea from a right-wing actor on social media. Why do you think he wants to do this, and why would he even bring it up to begin with?
Well, I think this is one of those cases where, it's tempting to kind of impugn almost like more strategy to Trump than there really is. It could be as simple as he saw something on social media or talked to someone who kind of planted this idea. And, I do think he's frustrated with, this notion that, when he floated the trial balloon of possibly sending U.S. citizens to El Salvador, that didn't really go over. Even some Republicans, on places like Fox were saying that they weren't supporters of that. And so this seems like kind of the Diet Coke version of that, like a pipe dream of having Alcatraz back up and running, and you can send, the worst of the worst, as he puts it there, U.S. citizen criminals. Obviously, I don't think this is something that is going to happen because, the refurbishments that would be required would take years and years, if not, a decade plus. And, so I don't really sense that there's any actual political will for this, but it's been entertaining to see Republicans like Eric Schmidt, the senator from Missouri, going on Fox today and trying to, credit Trump with some sort of brilliance here that, he's introducing fresh ideas and, triggering the libs and all this stuff. But I think it's just kind of a half-baked pipe dream that he came up with and, kind of farted out on Truth Social.
I tend to agree with you there. He does that quite often. Let's talk a little bit about this crypto scandal. At least I would call it a crypto scheme, where he's asked about this and he says, well, I haven't even looked at my bottom line. He says that to Welker. Do you believe a word that he says about this? I don't really believe a word he says about anything, but it just seems to be another scheme so that he and people around him can make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're actually going to have a big piece on this in my newsletter later this week. I think Thursday it's going to land. But I don't believe Trump, when he says that he doesn't have any clue. He's been promoting one of the events for the holders of his meme coin. I think just as recently as yesterday on social media, he was posting kind of an announcement for this event, which of course is being held for the top 220 holders of his meme coin, which, sent the price of it skyrocketing, which was the whole idea. And because of the way that crypto works, there's really no accountability or, there's no ability to kind of trace who is actually, lining his pockets here. So it could be foreign governments, it could be private individuals, companies, and then on the other hand, he's also at this time offering a stable coin, USD1, I think is what it's called, which is another way, in addition to the meme coin, that he can be enriched kind of directly. And, there was a deal last week with an Emirati firm that's pumping $2 billion, they announced, into his meme coin. And so, a portion of that goes directly into Trump's pockets, his family's pockets. The plausible deniability that he maintains is that, Eric, his son, is running his investment portfolios in this crypto trading firm while he's in office. But I think we all kind of understand that that's a very porous firewall, if one in the first place at all. So, yeah, he came up, this is kind of different from the first term where, it was kind of old fashioned grifting with the hotel. It was like you had the Secret Service spending money on rooms or foreign governments holding events. And now it's like kind of sophisticated, digital age where with these crypto wallets, foreign governments can, pump money directly into his pocket that way. And it's even easier.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. And, you still hear MAGA Republicans talking about Hunter Biden and Burisma and selling his artwork, but yet they're very silent when it comes to this crypto scandal. I find that to be very interesting. If you're just joining us, he is Aaron Rupar. His newsletter is Public Notice. Great journalist joining us right now on the show. Let's talk about tariffs for a moment. Donald Trump keeps saying that China's eating the tariffs, and he never talks about the American consumer. If you notice, it's interesting. What do you make of this back and forth between the Chinese government and Donald Trump? Trump claiming that he's spoken to President Xi, the Chinese government saying, no, that hasn't happened. That's not true. And he was asked about it again over the weekend, and he says, yeah, we're in talks, and yet nobody on the other side is even owning that. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I don't think there have been any talks. So I think to the extent that Trump is saying otherwise, I suspect he's lying, because Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, whose portfolio includes leading the negotiations with China, was at an event today, and then he was on CNBC a little bit after that, doing an interview where he basically said, they can call me if they want. He basically indicated there's been no talks. And, his line seemed to be that there's more pressure on China, given that, we are the country with a deficit in our trading relationship, that puts more pressure on China to cave. But, all of the indications in this interview were that there has not really been any engagement whatsoever. So they seem to really be intent on writing this out. And now, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm really, starting to watch for, our Walmart shoppers going to get hit, with either going there and having higher prices or having scarcity of certain products there. I think that's kind of the next big development, because it feels like we've been in a little bit of a lull, the past month or so, where the tariffs were announced. But of course, like a lot of big retailers at least had some inventory, that they were clearing out. And, now with reports of these ships coming over from China that are mostly empty, I think that's going to have some downstream effects. And those are the types of effects that I think really could put a dent in the armor of Trump's support among his base voters and among Republicans. So, I'm really interested to see that. But, you would think that there might be more dialogue happening to to try and get some sort of deal in place. But again, all indications to me, aside from Trump, where I'd say it's more likely that most of the things that he says are false rather than true. But you listen to a guy like Bessent, who chooses his words pretty carefully. And to me, it seemed, quite apparent that there's really no dialogue happening.
Right. And that would be very concerning. And I agree with you. Let's talk a little bit. See, to me, one of the most poignant parts of this Meet the Press interview was when Donald Trump basically said, anything goes bad, we're blaming Joe Biden. Anything that goes good, we're going to say it's the Trump economy. And he's asked, when does the Trump economy start? And I've been saying this all along. He'll never own anything, and he'll blame Joe Biden for all of his problems, when, as we know, the tariffs have nothing to do with Joe Biden and everything to do with Donald Trump's own policies. What did you make of that moment, Aaron, in the interview where he basically says, I'm going to blame everything on Joe Biden if it goes bad, and if it goes good, it's because of me?
Yeah, I thought that quote that you're referring to is actually like one of the all-time Trump sound bites, where, because the first, I posted the initial clip because they actually they included that little clip like in the teaser for the show. But it was really all you needed to hear. It was about 10 seconds for Welker's kind of like, at what point is this your economy? And he's like, it partially is. All the good things are my economy and all the bad things are Biden's economy. And it's like, if that doesn't sum up, kind of his mentality about everything in politics, including the economy, nothing really does. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to try and do this. I mean, this has already been kind of previewed in some other remarks that the administration has made, where they're talking about, Q3 and Q4 of 2025 is when we're really going to see the economic policies start to work. And Q2 is still going to be Biden's economy. So, they seem to be kind of moving the goalpost here, quarter by quarter, as we, it becomes apparent that we're kind of in for the long haul, and that, now Trump is in a spot with these tariffs where if he walks back the China tariffs, like that's going to be a pretty face-losing humiliation for him. So I think he's pretty dug in. I mean, obviously he's been tinkering around the margins with a number of these tariffs, but the China ones have been, it's 146%, and there's really no sign of that yielding. And of course, tomorrow, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, will be at the White House meeting Trump, which will be kind of fascinating. And I'll be curious to see if, what the conversation about tariffs looks like there. I mean, is there going to be another kind of like Oval Office, meltdown in the style of the Zelensky meeting, or, will it be more chummy? I suspect it'll be more chummy than the Zelensky one was. But, I do wonder if there'll be some sort of tariffs announcement coming out of that, maybe rolling some of them back. But yeah, I mean, the Welker interview, the Meet the Press, that really was kind of unhinged Trump throughout. I thought it was remarkably unhinged interview, even by his standards. And you would have maybe have liked to seen a little more pushback at moments like that, where he makes claims that are just completely absurd. But I don't doubt that. I think sometimes to get an interview like that, there are some conditions that you agree to, and Welker probably wants him to come back on the show for better or worse. And it was, again, it was one of those things where I think sometimes giving Trump an open mic is kind of enough. You'd rather have a lot of pushback, but I still think that interview, if you kind of went into it, not having your mind totally made up about Trump or being open-minded about him, I think you came out of that thinking that he sounds kind of like a lunatic.
unhinged unless you're a cult member. I completely agree with you, Aaron. So speaking of some crazy things that he said a lot of them over the weekend, he says a lot of nutty, crazy things every day. This was something that stood out to me. 100% tariffs on movie companies that make movies outside the United States of America.
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Again, I think sometimes he just like talks with people on Air Force One or someone at his club, and they kind of plant these ideas, because I do think that people want to kind of ascribe more strategic genius to Trump than there really is. I mean, I think, especially in the second term, he seems very kind of uninhibited, and no one around him is telling him no to anything. So I think he just kind of like posts whatever he feels like saying. And, I haven't really seen a cogent explanation today about like how this would work, or, with intellectual property, what would it mean to tariff that? I don't think anybody's really figured that out. Of course, he was asked about it during a press event today, and is still kind of like paying lip service to, oh, this is a great idea, and, revitalize the American film industry. But, I don't know. It's one of these things where he kind of puts out there, and then people talk about it for a day or two, and then it just kind of like goes away. But I think there were people in his first term that were a little bit better at kind of getting to him before he would post stuff like this, just to kind of save the hassle. But, it's just another day that ends in a Y in Trump's America, where he says something wacky, and then we all kind of have to try and figure out what he means.
I'm wondering, Aaron, because you've been doing this for a long time and you're a great journalist. And when you see people like Tim Pool and other right-wing morons, for lack of a better term, that are in the White House press briefing rooms, and usually they're asked they're given the first question. I'm wondering how somebody like you, how that makes somebody like you feel. You do your due diligence, and you see these clowns that are in there, that are invited there by Caroline Leavitt and the White House. How do you feel about that?
In some ways, I'm glad they're kind of showing their cards in terms of who are the journalists they value and want to amplify and think they need to legitimize for one reason or another. We saw a little bit of this towards the end of his first term, where, you get like the OAN, I think it was Chanel Ryan was her name, who during the COVID briefings would sometimes ask these like super fawning questions that Trump obviously really enjoyed. I think that maybe kind of got the idea percolating for him, that if he came back or had another term, this would be the way to go, kind of controlling who has access and amplifying these kind of fringe voices. So, it's turned these press briefings into even more of a farce than they were previously, because, you still have like AP reporters, CNN, MSNBC, who are in there, trying to ask questions. And, and I think it's healthy that at least they're trying. It would be, if I was in one of those organizations, I guess that is a worthwhile conversation to have, kind of like, at what point are we kind of legitimizing, these attacks on the press, and like, would we be better off just not being there? And I think I could kind of see that both ways. But, it's surreal, like these influencer briefings that they started having. I think Tim Pool is actually at the more normal press briefing, but, they had a couple last week where like Dom Lucre, who is this like really far right, was accused of like posting child exploitation materials on the internet. And, you had people kind of in that, in that lane who now are at these influencer briefings. And that even turns things up another notch, where it's like, now it's not, Tim Pool's bad enough. I guess he was literally on the Kremlin payroll, right? Or was at least alleged to have been. But now you have people who are like accused of like serious misconduct, who are being invited to ask questions. So it doesn't necessarily bother me, but I do think it, is at least worth being aware of. These are the people that the White House thinks are good journalists, and these are the voices that they're trying to amplify.
Yeah, it's going to continue for the next 3.5 years, no doubt about that. Aaron, before I let you go, and I appreciate your time, can you talk to me a little bit how people can sign up for your newsletter, Public Notice, which is awesome? Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. You can find the newsletter at publicnotice.co. If you like our conversation here today, I'm sure you'll like the newsletter. And then you can find me on all the socials, either AT Rupar or Blue Sky. I'm at atrupar.com.
Aaron, appreciate your work, my friend. Keep it up, and always appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And something tells me we'll be speaking again soon and talking about some more ridiculous things that Donald Trump has said and will continue to say. Thanks for the time, Aaron. I appreciate you, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
All right. You bet. Thank you. That's Aaron Rupar, everybody. Really good journalist, really great newsletter. Very popular, by the way, on social media. A huge following. That's because he's really good at what he does. And we really do appreciate his time. All right. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I'm actually starting to listen to and starting to agree with Karl Rove. I can't believe I'm saying this. Bear with me here for a moment, okay? He was on with Trey Gowdy on Fox News over the weekend. And he actually started to criticize Donald Trump a little bit. He actually has been criticizing him a lot lately, even on Fox News. Now, if you remember, over the weekend, just days after Pope Francis passed away, he was a good, decent man, a really good man. Days after he passes away, Donald Trump goes on Truth Social and he puts up an AI image of himself wearing what a cardinal would wear. Now, a lot of people that are Catholic were very upset by that. Unless you're a right-wing evangelical that supports Donald Trump, chances are you probably were offended by that. And I learned that there are even some MAGA Republicans that were very upset by what he did. I can't believe that Karl Rove is finally speaking out on Donald Trump, and he did it on Fox News with Trey Gowdy. And listen to what he had to say about this.
A safety net that had been basically now being put back together for those communities which was being overburdened by the illegal immigration. So get the American people so they have it. They say, you said you'd do it and you did it and we appreciate it. But again, the important thing is that we elected him for a variety of reasons that were important. Inflation, the border, DEI, the military, respect for America, and things like, just tweeting out a picture of you as the Pope is deeply offensive to a great many people. Going out there and saying, for example, this guy from Maryland, I don't know whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. I don't know if he's a gang member or not. But the fact is bring him back to the United States, lay out the facts in a court of law, and get it done. Don't. It does no good to let that thing go out there for 4 or 5 weeks and eat away at the president's approval on immigration. Take a look at the difference between approval ratings on the border, where he is in positive territory by a good margin, and handling the issue of immigration, which includes these other things, and it's significantly less, and he's upside down. That shows the discernment of the American people.
I cannot believe I am going to agree with Karl Rove. What he did with the Pope and that image is deeply offensive to a lot of people, and Karl Rove is 100% on that. But why should we be surprised? Donald Trump doesn't care, and official White House social media accounts reposted that. They don't care how offensive it is. Donald Trump thinks he's being funny. It's not funny. It's offensive. The Pope just passed away a few days ago. It's ridiculous. It's repulsive. And you could talk about the border, and I disagree with Karl Rove on that. I don't think his numbers are fantastic when it comes to how he's handling the border or how he's handling immigration, for that matter. But again, Karl Rove now talking about inflation. And I can't believe I am agreeing with him. This is, again, not on CNN or MSNBC. This is Karl Rove on Fox News with Trey Gowdy criticizing Donald Trump when it comes to inflation.
Two things, he's having success. The others, it's sort of incomplete. We're inflation. The president is, saying gas is $1.90. I just filled up my tank. It ain't $1.90, and we do not have have inflation tapped down to 2%. And we run the risk of having it jump up at least in a one-time way if these tariffs are put in place. And there's a lot of concern about the economy. The president's ratings on the handling of the economy and of tariffs are in the 30s, and his overall approval now is in the mid to low 40s, and that's not a good place to be 100 days in. Plenty of time to turn that around, but he's got to be focused on those two things I think that people wanted, which was a strong and prosperous economy and inflation being wiped out.
Well, yeah, and obviously that's not happening. Karl Rove is correct once again. By the way, he's not in the mid to low 40s. Last I checked, he's at 39% approval ratings. But when you have somebody like Karl Rove, for the most part, has been a right-wing talking head for the Republican Party, and he's openly criticizing Donald Trump with Trey Gowdy on Fox News, you got problems, ladies and gentlemen. When Karl Rove is the guy that you turn to that's finally starting to make sense, you got problems. And you had Donald Trump with some ridiculous comments over the weekend about Alcatraz, ridiculous comments about 100% tariffs on movies that are made outside America, ridiculous comments saying that if anything goes bad, it's because of Joe Biden, and if anything goes good, it's because of the Trump economy, it's because of Donald Trump. Again, talking about an election being rigged, he still can't get over the fact that he lost to Joe Biden, and this is going to continue, and it's not going to end for the next 3.5 years plus. It's only going to get worse, and I think his approval numbers are only going to get worse as well. And for those of you out there that think I have TDS, you have TFS. It's also known as Trump fellatio syndrome. I want to thank Jasmine on the YouTube Super Chat with a very generous donation. Jasmine, thank you so much. She says, this is my monthly donation. I really enjoy your show, Brian. Keep up the great work and putting MAGA in their place. You're damn right, Jasmine. As long as I have people like you that are in my quarter supporting what I will do, I will continue to be here every day working hard for you. You could also check out my website, pushingthelimits.live, where we sell merchandise on there, shirts, hats, beanies, you name it, we sell it. And also accept donations on there as well. This portion of the program is brought to you by Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Yes, that's right, home of the $20 ribeye with a side and vegetables. They haven't changed the price in over 8 years, and it's not changing anytime soon. It's a great bang for your buck. Please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show. Now comes to the portion of the program that a lot of people say is their favorite. We do a lot of great interviews here, but at the same time, people love the phone calls. This is the most interactive show you will find anywhere on social media. We're going to take your phone calls after this 90-second break, and the number to call if you want to be a part of the show, 702-221-7283. And again, that number, MAGA callers are welcome to call in. Tell me if you're happy with Donald Trump's first 100 days in office. Tell me if you still support Donald Trump. Maybe you've changed your mind. Maybe you will admit that you made a mistake. And my question to all of you, what did you think of Donald Trump's statements over the weekend, or answers, for lack of a better term, to the Meet the Press interview? So we're asking you a little bit about that. Should we put any clout into the fact that Karl Rove is criticizing Donald Trump on Fox News, or am I making a little bit too much of that? We're talking about that as well. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the program, 702-221-7283. And again, 702-221-7283. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you could be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at radioyou101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Programming note, we got some great guests lined up the remainder of the week. John Fogelsang is going to be joining us either tomorrow or Wednesday. We're trying to put a time in place. So Enrique Tarrio met with Donald Trump, and I guess they had dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Very interesting. We'll be talking a little bit about that as well. But right now we're talking about Donald Trump's interview over the weekend on Meet the Press, where he was completely unhinged. We just had Aaron Rupar talking a little bit about that. Karl Rove. When Karl Rove is the man that you go to for logical takes and opinions, and he's criticizing Donald Trump, the Republican Party has a problem. He was criticizing Donald Trump on with Trey Gowdy on Fox News. That's a problem. Phone lines are full right now, as they usually are, 702-221-7283. And we will continue to take calls, and we're talking about those issues. Why don't we start off with Mark? Mark is first up on PTL. Hey, Mark, what's going on? Hi, Mark. Are you there? Okay, thank you, Mark. That might be the best phone call we have today. That was great. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Elma. Elma, are you there? Hey, what's going on, Elma?
Yes. Hello. How are you?
Hey, good, Elma.
I hope you're having a great day.
I am. What's on your mind today?
You know, I wanted to share some information that I'm very baffled of why I haven't really heard it being spoken about. In regards, there are a couple topics. One in regards to Donald Trump changing the Gulf of Mexico, named the Gulf of America. Mm-hmm. How come nobody talks about he only has the legal right to do that for 22 nautical miles?
Well, you're right. You're right about that, but I do find it interesting that these are the types of things that MAGA Republicans seem to put as top priority. Gulf of Mexico, exactly. Gulf of America, putting him on Mount Rushmore. I don't know if you're aware of this, but literally House Republicans are in the chambers today talking about this, making Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America. That's what's at the top of their priority. It's certainly not about health care. It's certainly not about all the issues facing American people when it comes to the economy. It's not about, abortion or any of the top issues that most Americans care about. But Gulf of America, that's what House Republicans have at the top of the agenda today. And it goes to show you that Republicans do not know how to govern. They just don't.
Absolutely don't. And there's another thing that I've heard, because I listen to a lot of Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico's, press conferences. And when Trump was talking about possibly declaring the cartel as terrorists, so he can go into Mexico and bomb them without having to have the president of Mexico's permission to go into Mexico. Well, nobody talked about how President Sheinbaum pushed back by saying, okay, well, if you're going to do that, then we're going to declare the gun manufacturers terrorists also, because they're the ones that providing all the arms and guns to the cartel to be able to do what they do. Almost 75% of the guns that are in Mexico come from the United States.
Yeah.
So when he pushed back with that threat, everybody stopped talking about Donald Trump invading Mexico to bomb the cartel.
That's true. And again, it goes to show you what we said to start this phone call, is that Republicans don't know how to govern, and they want to talk about drag queens. They'd rather talk about banning books than what the real issues that are facing American people right now. The economy, tariffs, how it's affecting almost every industry in a negative way in this country. But Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about that. And when the troubles arise, which they have, he wants to blame Joe Biden for it. Thank you for the call, my dear. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. We have two phone lines open, 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to Frank. Frank is next up on PTL. Hey, Frank, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Hey, doing good, Frank.
Did you hear about tariffs? Solana's close Mexico, United States, and Canada, they closed work down. Harley in Milwaukee is leaving the country. Ford, Case, Boeing, Toyota, Nissan, and GM, they're all shut down. They're going.
So I have heard that, Frank, and there's a lot of small businesses, not just large companies, but small businesses all over this country. Some of these people voted for Donald Trump. Some of them have buyer's remorse, but make no mistake about it. There's a lot of people that have lost their jobs. There's a lot of people that are losing their livelihood. They're losing their businesses because directly because of Donald Trump's policies, in particular when it comes to these tariffs. But you see, Donald Trump doesn't care. He's completely unaware. He's complicit because he doesn't care. And he was asked about this over the weekend, didn't have anything to say about it. Totally unaware of many of these people who voted for Donald Trump that are struggling. But what they care about is the Gulf of America, What they care about is banning books. What they care about is getting Donald Trump on Mount Rushmore. Guess what? Most American people care about more important things like the economy, like being able to put food on the table for their families. And I'm wondering where all these MAGA morons are, because occasionally they call into this show, and I'm wondering what their defense is for all the stuff that Donald Trump and the damage that he's doing to this country and, quite frankly, the world.
They don't have any. They don't have the answers. And I hear through the social media that he might try to disrupt the next year elections.
Well, that could be possible, Frank. Listen, I've stopped putting anything past this guy. Everything is on the table. There are people in my industry, like myself, that are worried that he's going to come after us. There are people in every industry that are worried. This is an oligarchy. This is a dictatorship. Whether you want to admit it or not, I don't care. You know, it's like people want to get in the weeds on things. Oh, Gen 6 was just a riot. It wasn't an insurrection. I don't care what you call it. It doesn't happen if Donald Trump wasn't president. These tariffs do not happen if Donald Trump is not the president of the United States. It's not happening. All these families that are being split up, these people, so many of them that are nonviolent criminals, what's going on in El Salvador is a travesty. And when the Supreme Court makes a ruling 9-0 and Donald Trump defies the Supreme Court, our democracy is over. It's over. At least as far as I'm concerned right now. It's shattered beyond belief, including our Constitution and all these MAGA Republicans that want to talk about the Constitution. All these MAGA Republicans that want to talk about how sacred our Constitution is. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is ripping out parts of our Constitution every day. People are not getting due process in the Constitution. It doesn't say as long as you're illegal in this country, then you get the right to due process. It says any person. Any person means you could be legal or illegal. It doesn't matter. Everybody has the right to due process. We need to respect the rule of law. But should we be surprised? Because Donald Trump has never respected the rule of law. Donald Trump has never respected the rule of law because he's cheated and he's lied and he's broken the law his entire life. So should we be surprised when he has all this power, when he's the president of the United States, he does it tenfold? No, we shouldn't be surprised. And if you're one of those people that is surprised, then maybe you need to get your head out of your ass. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Bob. Bob is next up on PTL. Hey, Bob, what's going on?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey, doing good, Bob. What's on your mind?
I never thought there would be a worse interviewer than Chuck Todd, but Kristen Walker. She's number two.
She's not very good. She's not very good. I agree.
And him doing away with the Constitution, what, because he didn't put his hand on the Bible when he was sworn in as president? Come on now. Someone in the military's got to do something. It's treason.
Well, everything he is doing right now is only out for himself and the people that surround him. And I say this again to these MAGA Republicans that are such hypocrites. They continue to want to talk. They continue to want to talk about Hunter Biden and Burisma, and as they like to call it, the Biden crime family, sir. But yet, when it comes to this crypto scandal, why is it that we hear crickets from the MAGA right?
Remember how long we heard Benghazi?
Yeah.
Hillary's emails. Come on now.
Hey, Bob. 8 investigations into Benghazi that were all run by Republicans. What did they find? Can you remind our listeners what they found?
The big goose egg.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the emails, last I checked, the FBI investigated that. Did they find that she broke the law?
She did break the law. Pete Hegseth has done more damage to this country. I think he needs to go too.
I think everybody in his administration needs to go, as far as I'm concerned, including Marco Rubio, a guy that has no backbone, absolutely no backbone, and a guy that I don't know how he looks in the mirror. Thank you for the call, Bob. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. 702-221-7283, the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Lynette. Lynette is next up on PTL. Hi, Lynette.
Hi, Brian. How are you doing?
Hey, good, Lynette. What's on your mind today?
I just want to remind your listeners, and I want to remind the Republican Party, if we go back a little bit in time, back to April the 7th at 6:14 in the evening, back in 2020, when Trump fired Watchdog Inspector General Glenn Fine. He went in on a Monday night, Glenn Fine oversaw the $2 trillion stimulus packages, the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee. Well, out of Trump's own words, he stated that he was displeased by the law's oversight provision, that Trump did not want visibility as to where any of the money is going, stating that it is an invasion on the separation of powers enshrined by the Constitution.
Yeah.
He's doing the exact same thing now, and I just wonder and I don't want to classify the megas with the Republicans because I feel like they're like separate parties. What made anybody who has followed this man think that it would be any different? There's no transparency.
Right.
He was a mandated president from the day he took office, and I challenge anyone. What has he done that he ran his campaign on?
So let's go back to 2016, my dear, for a moment. If you remember, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, he basically ran on two things, which was, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it, and we're going to hire a special...
Never happened.
Exactly. I was getting to that. And then we're going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. So he didn't do that. And then he lied and he said, well, I have compassion. Yeah, okay. I'm sure that's why. Because Hillary Clinton didn't break the law. Okay. He said that because the meat of his idiocy of his base believed it. And Mexico didn't pay $1 for the wall, and he built like 6 or 7% of it. Now, this go around, he did the exact same thing. No tax on tips. Almost said no tax on ticks. No tax on tips. How's that working out? We're going to end the war in 24 hours. How's that working out? I'm going to lower the price of inflation on day one and gas prices. How's that working out? The man literally has not been able to fulfill any of his promises at all, just like he's never been able to fulfill any of his vows to any of his ex-wives.
Exactly. And, I stand down the middle, and I'm a fact over fiction. I'll call out both sides of the aisle, when I feel like it's hurting we, the American people. And what I'm noticing is that there is a lot of people who voted for him it's like word salad.
Yeah.
Like you can go on TikTok, and I'm not going to mention any names, but you've got some syndicated host that just you can't even have a conversation.
No.
Because it's mega Trump.
Right.
And like I said, I ask Republicans on that side of the aisle, what exactly has this man done to make your life better? Because he ran his campaign on BS. And I won't even go into...
Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what it is, my dear, and I really do appreciate your call. Thank you for calling in. There are a percentage of people in this country that don't care what Donald Trump says or does. They were unwilling to vote for a woman. They were certainly, some of them, unwilling to vote for a woman of color. And they would rather vote for a man who is a liable abuser and a man who is a 34-count felon. And I use the term man very loosely, by the way. He's also a multiple-time draft dodger. And they would rather vote for that. And I don't feel sorry for any of these people. What I do feel sorry for the people that did not vote for Trump, the people that warned you, the people that are suffering right now. And the reason why they're suffering is because there are so many ill-informed, uneducated people out there that voted for Donald Trump. That's just the reality of the situation. And I appreciate your phone call. 702-221-7283. Why don't we go to Charles? Charles is next up on PTL. Hey, Charles, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. So a lot of MAGA people, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, it seems like they're good intention because they want to bring back manufacturing to America and bring back jobs, which doesn't sound like a bad thing until you realize that manufacturing is basically automated now. And like Dave Chappelle said recently, I want to wear Nikes. I don't want to make them. People don't want to work in manufacturing. And I see that a lot of coal miners now are suffering from black lung and also suffering from Trump removing some of the benefits that were in place because of that. So my question is, when people are shown that they're being conned, why is it so hard for them to accept?
It's a really good question.
Keep on being fooled?
It's a really good question that you asked, and I've actually talked about this before, my friend, and it's very simple. There are a percentage of people in society that are not willing to admit they're wrong. I mean, just like an hour and a half ago, I was admitting I was wrong to somebody. I feel like I apologize to people all the time, and I admit I'm wrong. I think it's one of the best things you can do as a human being. I go back to politics in 2016. I did not vote for Hillary Clinton. Now, I didn't vote for Donald Trump either because I wasn't really fond of either of them. I had no idea the monster that Donald Trump would turn out to be. And I admit that I made a mistake. And I said to myself, just really like months after, I said, I will never make this same mistake again. I'm going to do more research. And I made a mistake. Because we're all not perfect as human beings. But I think to answer your question bluntly, their egos, they can't admit they're wrong and they made a mistake. A lot of these people believed it when Donald Trump told them that he was going to lower the price of inflation, when he was going to implement no tax on tips. A lot of people believed it when he said he was going to put Hillary Clinton in jail, or when he said he was going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. A lot of people still believe the rhetoric. And you cannot get through to these people because they are so naive. And yes, I will use the term ignorant, ill-informed, you name it, uneducated. You cannot get through to these people. Donald Trump, one of the only things he's ever said in his life that I actually believe was truthful and honest is when he said, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they would still vote for me. That is why we call it a cult. I call it a clan cult, and that is why.
But if you give them the information, like, for example, like I see that they're saying, okay, well, we just got to give them a chance with these tariffs now. We see that our 401ks have tanked and everything else, and companies have to make forecasts on what's going to happen, and their forecasts are obviously going to be negative based on tariffs. How come they still can't see that, though? I mean, I'm just saying, is it just
because they're not capable?
Racism that strong?
I think that's
just racism.
I think that's certainly a part of it. I think you could say naive, complicit. They are going to listen to everything that Donald Trump says. They're supreme leader, right? This is a dictatorship. And when Donald Trump blames Joe Biden for, say, the economy right now, when we know directively everything is going on when it comes to the economy, at least in the last several weeks, that's been negative, is in relation to tariffs. I think most economists would tell you that. But when he blames Joe Biden and George Soros for all of his problems, his cultish followers believe it. I mean, it's crazy. You know, I remember, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. If you remember, listen, I'm not a big Nancy Pelosi fan. I never have been. But when her husband was attacked with a hammer, that was a horrible story. And I felt for him, and I'm glad he made it through. What a terrible situation. But when you remember, MAGA Republicans and even Donald Trump were making jokes about it, and they claimed that it was some sort of gay relationship, and he was let the guy in, which obviously was not true. A lot of people on the right believed it. Another example, the attack that took place in New Orleans a few months ago, tragic situation where so many innocent people lost their lives. And I've interviewed some of the victims and their families. And if you recall, sir, it was Donald Trump and other MAGA Republicans that blamed Joe Biden for his, quote, open border policies, when it turns out the person who committed these horrible crimes was someone who was born in America. It had nothing to do with the border. But yet MAGA Republicans believe it. They believe the things that these crazy lunatics say on social media.
But they also deny things, too, because one of the big things that I have a problem with is that Enrico Tarrio, who's been a guest on your show, was the leader of the Latinos for Trump in Florida. But yet they say, I have no idea who this guy is, even though there are pictures of him taking pictures with Trump Jr. So how could they deny their own eyes?
Well, listen, sir. I mean, Enrique Tarrio just was invited to have dinner with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend. Do you remember when Nick Fuentes and Kanye West were invited to Mar-a-Lago to have dinner with Donald Trump, and then Trump claimed he didn't know who Fuentes was? Obviously, he did the same thing with David Duke. Do you remember when Donald Trump was running for president, he said he didn't know who David Duke was? When years earlier, when he did the Larry King show, he absolutely spoke out against David Duke. He knew exactly who David Duke was then and now, but David Duke is a supporter of his, and he didn't want to offend David Duke or some of the people in his clan. So Donald Trump is a liar. Just like he knew exactly who David Duke is and was, he knows exactly who Nick Fuentes is, and that's why he invites these people to Mar-a-Lago, and that's why he invited Enrique Tarrio to Mar-a-Lago as well and to the White House, because they know who these people are, and they don't care. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Frankie. Frankie is next up on PTL. Hi, Frankie.
Hi, Brian. How are you doing today?
Hey, good, Frankie. What's on your mind?
Well, you told me to call you when I got out of the hospital.
Oh, good. I'm
So
glad
that's
you're
what I'm
doing.
doing.
I'm so glad you made a recovery and you're doing okay, Frankie. I'm very happy to hear about that. What's on your mind today?
Well, I still have a long ways to go before I get well.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're out of the
Completely.
hospital, though. I'm sure you're more comfortable that you're out of the hospital. That's a good thing. For those of you that are unaware, Frankie was in the hospital last week, and he was listening to my show, and he called in the hospital, and I'm glad we helped him make it through his day a little bit, and I'm glad you're doing better, Frankie. What do you make of the times we're living in right now, Frankie? Like, what do you make of this dictatorship, or I like to call it an oligarchy? What do you make of it, Frankie?
I think it's completely insane.
Yeah.
I really think it's insane.
It's not good for anybody's mental health. I'll tell you that. It's certainly not good for mine. I'll tell you that. But, I worry about people like you. I worry about everybody. I worry about your health care. I worry about them taking away your Social Security. I'm worrying about them taking away your medical benefits. I'm worried about them taking away my benefits. And the fact that I'm able to do a radio show every day, nothing is off the table. And I'm not trying to gaslight, and I'm not trying to scare people. This is a dictatorship. And if you're not all in with Donald Trump, they are going to go after you. If you do something to a Tesla vehicle, which, by the way, I do not condone, they want you 20 years in jail. But if you beat a cop, but you're a Donald Trump defender, you get a free pardon. That's the way they run this. That's what they do.
Yeah, the priorities are definitely messed up. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no question. Well, Frankie, go ahead.
I also saw a Tesla on the road the other day, and it was saying, "I bought this before Elon went crazy."
That's actually funny. I would laugh at that person, at least for admitting that. Hey, Frankie, I'm glad you're out of the hospital, my friend. I hope you get better, and I appreciate you calling in. It really means a lot to me. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Carlos. Carlos is next up on PTL. Hi, Carlos.
Hey, Brian. So I just wanted to call and tell you about the oil field side of it. I'm from Texas, Southeast Texas. And we live in what's called the Energy Corridor. And a lot of our jobs have been pretty much our maintenance turnarounds have been having to postpone till next year because nobody knows what's going on with these tariffs, man.
Carlos, what would you say to people out there that say, Carlos, you don't know what you're talking about. The economy's doing great. It's not affecting your business. Blah, 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 blah. What would you say to a MAGA supporter out there that is clearly wearing the blinders, that doesn't want to listen to people like you? What would you say to them?
Buddy, 90% of the people I work with are like that, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
And it's hard to get them to see and understand. So I work for one of the biggest oil refineries in the world, pretty much, and where we make our overtime is when our maintenance turnarounds actually happen and we shut down our units. That's when a lot of contractors come over and actually have work done. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've had a major one coming up in August. We're going to have to cancel it till next year because they don't want to shut down and then having to wait and order material,
Carlos, I'm so sorry to hear that.
These people.
And you're in Texas. What do you say to those 90% of people, that maybe even people you have to work with, that are so blinded by what the damage that Donald Trump is doing to not just the country, but to people in your industry? How does that conversation even go? And how do you talk to these people, if at all?
Honestly, I try not to, but when something does happen like this, where they're complaining about not being able to get as much overtime hours as they usually get every year, I'm like, this is what you guys voted for. Fortunately, me and my wife works in the healthcare, so she has a real stable job and all that. But I mean, we're able to get through this, but a lot of them aren't. And these guys have their big boats and they have their big lifted trucks and I don't know how they're going to make it. And they see it as what the news tells them. And it tells them that it's short-term pain, is what they always say. Oh, it's just pain for a little bit. We're going to come out on top. But how long can they actually last is what I'm like. How long are they able to bunker down is what I'm saying.
And these are the same
people. I know me and my family, we can.
Right. And these are the same people during the Biden administration that said, oh, my God, it's going to take decades to recover from this. But under Donald Trump, when things are going down the toilet, oh, this is just short term. Everybody's going to be okay. I mean, there's some of the biggest hypocrites in the world. But, Carlos, I wish you and your wife the best. I really do. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, Brian, I just want to say I agree with everything you say, man. I'm a big fan of yours.
Well, thank you, Carlos. I'm a fan of yours, too. Hardworking Americans and good people and good families that are intelligent intelligent people that understand the damage that Donald Trump is doing. Carlos, I wish you and your family nothing but the best, and we're going to get through this together, and you call back anytime, okay?
Have a good one.
Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate you, my man. You can hear it in his voice, the concern. Now, listen, he lives in Texas, right? Governor Abhole, 90% of the people he said that he works with in the industry don't get it, and they're MAGA. Oh, boy, I could not work in that industry. Holy smokes. Then again, 99% of political talk radio hosts live in a right-wing echo chamber bubble. Luckily, they're not in this studio. I'll tell you that. I'm not a part of that. Thank you for the call, my friend. I do appreciate you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Anna Marie is next. I think Anne Marie is next. Hi, Anne Marie. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey, good.
Good. I just have an alternate view on the Kristen Welker interview that I listened to. I thought, in a way, she was masterful. She gave him just enough rope to hang himself. I think she was respectful on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And she avoided his rants and his insults that feed the base. And then they'll complain about the interview and how nasty she was. But instead, I think it has to leave something for them to chew on, because she never pushed back too much. And he, like I said, he just, he screwed up every question. He really, she opened him up to tell the truth about a lot of things that are totally, crazy.
Okay, so let's dissect this a little bit. I understand what you're saying, and you're right. We might disagree on this one. I think it is the responsibility of someone and an interviewer to fact check. And I don't believe she did that, or at least she didn't do that enough. Example, when he keeps saying he won the 2020 election, you cannot let him get away with that. When you put out statistics that are complete lies about gas prices and about inflation, she did not fact check him on that. It doesn't mean you have to be combative, but you say, no, sir, here's are the stats that are out. Here's the average price of gas. It's not under $2 a gallon. Here's what it is. No, sir, you did not win the 2020 election. You keep saying you did, but that doesn't change the fact that you had the opportunity to prove it in court and you were unable to do so. She did not do that.
She did question him on the court cases. She made that a statement. She said, you went to court, sir. You had, however she called him.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's where we disagree. Listen, my dear.
I know a lot of MAGA. Let me just finish this one point too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of MAGA people. I live in upstate New York. It's a red county. They're my family. They're my friends, and I just try to get along. But I can feel like that was not something they could take and rah for their king.
Okay, but hold on. I hear you, but hang on here. So you made an interesting statement that, Donald Trump is going to say, well, she was nasty to me. Here's my response to that. Who cares? Who cares what Donald Trump thinks about her? And who cares what his MAGA cult think about her? It is the job. I'm sure Kristen Welker is a very nice woman, okay? Obviously, she's very accomplished, and she didn't just get to meet the press overnight. However, I don't think she pushes back enough. You don't have to call them names, and you don't have to be nasty. That would be unprofessional. You get respect if you give respect when you get it and you earn it. Donald Trump, basically every answer was lying and spreading rhetoric. She did not push back on him enough. And he threw out statistics that were blatant lies, whether it be about inflation, whether it be about egg prices or the price of gas or the 2020 election, or crazy stuff about Alcatraz, or crazy stuff. She asked him, are you going to defy, the Constitution? Are you going to uphold the Constitution? He said, maybe, maybe not. I'm not an attorney. That is a crazy statement, and she didn't push back on that. So I think there's a way to do both, and I just don't think she did a very good job at doing it.
I just feel like at the point that we are in this country, and if we can turn MAGA, even if it's slowly, we turn MAGA, and they're not again, this would be neat for his base if she was really pushing back and he had to go on, a big defense.
I hear you. I do hear what you're saying.
That's just my point. I want hope for this country and we can't do it alone. We need MAGA, some of them too.
I agree with you, but here's my frustration, my dear, okay? We've had 9 years to try to talk these people out of doing what they did in November. We've had 9 years to try to explain to them why Donald Trump is such a threat to democracy and will hurt people like you, people like me, Trump supporters out there, people that are struggling, people living paycheck to paycheck. We've had 9 years to try to explain to people the threat that Donald Trump is, and they didn't want to hear it. Now a lot of these people are losing their jobs and losing their livelihoods. And it's like, what do we have to do?
And things are going to get worse. Things are going to get worse.
That's my point.
And I don't want to say that. I want things to go good for our country. I don't care, who's president. But,
right.
They're saying things about, like, stock up on coffee. Nobody wants to go through this again.
Right.
There was a way to do this. And maybe it was some of these ideas are good, these conservative ideas.
My dear, you're
not the way.
You're far more patient than I am, but I will leave you with this. And I understand where you're coming from. It's time to fight. It's time to push back. And I don't care if you're a timid person, or I don't care if you don't like debate. I don't care if you're just a sweet, kind person and you love everybody. Okay, that's great. Okay, that's great. It is time to fight these people. It is time to push back. It is time to prove to all of these people that you were wrong. You hurt the country by voting for this guy. Here's what Donald Trump is doing. And if you still don't get it, then go fly a kite, because you're not worth 2 seconds of my time. That is where I am at right now mentally. That is where I have been at since November, and I have had it. We have lost due process in this country. Whether you're undocumented or not is not the point. We have lost the right for people to have due process. They're being sent to prisons in El Salvador that are nonviolent criminals. As far as our democracy and our courts go, he defies the Supreme Court. Does it get any worse than that? He rips up parts of the Constitution, and he continues to lie while he's making money with his crypto scandal, and the average everyday American is struggling. I am done being nice, and I am going to continue to be like this, at least until we get somebody else in office that is not a MAGA Republican, and I will not stop fighting, and I hope all of you are with me on this. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Brett. Brett is next on PTL. Hi, Brett.
Hey, Brian, what's happening?
Hey, Brett.
I don't know if I'm as optimistic as you at this point. I woke up this morning, and the first thing I see on my phone is, I don't really know all the details, but what I got out of it was that she got $500,000 for calling a 9-year-old boy the N-word on the park, and
oh my, I heard about that. It's so terrible.
Did you hear this story?
I heard this. It's so absolutely terrible, but it's funny how you won't hear MAGA Republicans criticizing anybody when it comes to this story. I find that very interesting. If you call him the orange orangutan or Cheeto Jesus, people will call into the show and MAGA Republicans will be upset with me. But if somebody calls somebody the N-word, it's funny. MAGA Republicans, many of them don't seem to have a problem with that, do they?
No, it seems on the contrary that they like it. They defended it. Not only that, they sent her $500,000, Brian. $500,000.
Doesn't that tell you where we are at as a society when somebody calls?
And that's my point that I started the conversation. I haven't given up, but it's just like it takes my breath away at how far that we've fallen, and maybe we've always been that way underneath and just hit it better. I don't know.
So that could be. But when somebody in this country makes close to $1 million, last I checked, it's somewhere around $700,000 right now. When somebody makes that kind of money for calling somebody who happens to be an African American the N-word, I don't recognize the country that I am living in anymore. I don't recognize this anymore. I don't recognize the country that I am living in anymore. And it's very sad for me to say that, and I don't say this lightly. These are very dangerous and times that we are living in. All we can do is continue to call it out. And for anybody that has donated to this person who uses the N-word, shame on you. And you're probably the same person who buys the Donald Trump Bibles. You're probably the same person who has a Confederate flag. You're probably the same person who owns some sort of white hoodie outfit that's in your closet. That's how I feel about these people. They are despicable, and they are some of the worst people that America has to offer. Shame on them, and I will always call them out. Always.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Brian. I don't have a lot today.
All right.
But,
I
I'll talk
appreciate
to
it.
you soon.
I appreciate it, my man. Thank you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Kowalski. Kowalski is next up on PTL. Hi, Kowalski.
How you doing, Super Soul?
Hey, good. What's on your mind, my friend?
Oh, well, first and foremost, it's pretty amazing how our wannabe king with no clothes seems to figure out a way to always consistently figure out how to get lower. Like, that's a skill, right? We can say he has at least one skill, right? I mean, who in there? He put up a picture of him as Pope. Have you seen the lightsaber one?
Yep.
This guy, he's literally demented in the brains, and people still. So you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking he might have a point with the Alcatraz thing. We put his whole administration there, right in the center side. I live right across the bay there from it. So right, so I know the exact layout of current Alcatraz, both the crumbles and what's still standing there.
You think Donald Trump could float?
These,
Could Donald Trump float? I don't know.
He's fat enough. The sharks will find him first, though. But anyways, like if we take these feeders from the petting zoos, you know, the ones with the goat kibble, and there's already these metal bars that don't allow you to come within like 15 feet of all these old cells. So we already have that separation. We could just put those things there and let little kids throw goat feed at him. He's got a sink. So
But Kowalski,
he's got a little pool hole.
Kowalski, think about this for a minute. Financially, right? 200.
Great.
But think about this in all seriousness. He's thinking about opening Alcatraz, which I don't think will happen. It would cost the American taxpayer $250 million. The average prison costs the American taxpayer around $75 million. And yet they want to talk about conserving, and they want to talk about Doge. And you have these...
Who said anything about restoring this, though? We'll put him in the crumbling rooms. It's all there. I've been...
Well, we could do that. I think we lost you, Kowalski, accidentally there. We appreciate your call, my friend. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Kim. Kim is next up on PTL. Hey, Kim, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
Chat. Okay, so first I'm going to apologize. I apparently had high hopes for Herb. And then I heard him call in on Friday, and I guess that went right out the window.
Yes,
but I was on call on Friday, hanging on. I wanted to come in after Darlene, and Darlene was talking about defunding of schools. So I just wanted to let you know, if anybody doesn't know this, Governor Murphy in New Jersey had notified. He puts out very good notifications exactly what cuts are being made when. So there was a notification sent out on Thursday that Trump, with the minimal federal education system that he is dismantling, what is left of it, nationwide, $1 billion was cut from schools for mental health services. And this $1 billion covers not only, back in the day, they were just guidance counselors in school. A lot more schools have psychologists who work with kids. But it also completely defunds crisis management. So in the case of our next school shooting, God forbid there is one, but we know there will be.
Yep.
There is no funding for crisis management teams to come in and take care of these kids and families after our next school shooting, because he has cut $1 billion nationwide from schools for mental health crisis intervention. Just wanted to share that with all of you.
Not surprising, and unfortunately, I wish you were wrong, but you are correct, and it's very scary times we're living in, my dear, and you're a better person than I am, because I have no hope for MAGA callers like Herb. I really don't. But I try to educate them every day on the show. It doesn't always work out because, again, they can't admit they're wrong about anything. Let's go to Alex. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Hi, Alex. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. How are you?
Hey, good. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to know, with the next 4 years, do we see ourselves really getting out of this, even if we are to get back the Senate and possibly the Congress? Because I'm really not sure if that's really going to be a thing at this particular point for what all of the bills that they're getting ready to draft up in Congress, and then also just the fact that if this guy is really going to leave the White House.
Well, I'm going to tell you, those are really good questions that you ask, and you might not like my answer. I think it's going to take us decades to recover from the damage that Donald Trump has done to this country. To answer the second part of your question, no, I don't think he's going to want to leave the White House. Now, that could mean running as vice president. Maybe J.D. Vance running as president. No, I don't think he's ever going to want to leave the White House, to answer your question. It's going to take decades. And even though, let's assume for a moment, and it's a big assumption, but let's assume for a moment that Democrats have a pretty good 2026 midterms, and let's assume, and again, another big assumption, that a Democrat holds office as president in 2028. It's still going to take decades for us to recover from this. And we have nothing but the adjudicated woman-abusing criminal 34-count felon to thank.
Right. I think also just the fact that we just have, I don't know if it's rumored or not, but is they going to have, like, if people are homeless, is that going to be now considered as a crime?
You never know.
Because that's despicable.
You never know. Listen, I put all the cards out on the table. When Donald Trump and Republicans have the House and the Senate, they are trying to do things that we have never seen before. First of all, they're defunding Sesame Street and NPR and PBS. They're going after people that don't agree with everything that Donald Trump says or does. And if you don't kiss the ring, they are going after you criminally, or at least they're trying to. These are unprecedented times that we're living in, and I don't take that for granted. That is exactly what they are trying to do. Thank you for the call, my friend. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good. What's going on, Dave? What's on your mind?
A couple points. The decades thing, I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if we will ever fully, as a country, recover from the idiocy, Dr. Strangelove reign of this miscreant. And that's all I can. That's a compliment to call him a miscreant.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning to understand. I think I've been talking with my friends about this, and they keep saying, just be quiet. You're just giving them ideas, right?
Right.
You're giving them ideas to rebound off of. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying back to them, well, but if we don't, then we're screwed. So, and I'm beginning to understand how Hitler did it. People are afraid to say anything. They're afraid to speak up. They went, the same couple, they did the march on Wednesday in Oswego, New York, and they said that these MAGA pickup trucks would drive by like 2 feet at 40 miles an hour, 2 feet from the curb. Back and forth with their flags flying out of their pickups, and just like, I don't know where we're headed. I mean, I really don't.
Well, I have an idea.
I wake up.
I have an idea where we're headed.
Well, me too.
Yeah, and I have an idea, by the way, where Donald Trump is headed. It's called hell. That's where he's headed.
Yeah, not soon enough, though.
Yeah. Well, listen, my friend, we have to come together. We have to get through this together. It's going to be very difficult. I didn't think it would be this hard. I knew it would be hard. I didn't think it'd be this hard. We are going to do our best to try to get through the next 3.5 years. I don't know how. And, sometimes I'm speechless. I cannot believe the things Donald Trump says and the things he does on a daily basis. I cannot believe where we are at as a country right now. I was having a conversation with somebody about this yesterday. I cannot believe where we are at as a country. We have no choice but to do everything we can to try to get through it together. And I really do believe that his approval numbers are going to get lower and lower and lower. This is what happens when you elect a madman and put him in office. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Finkel. Finkel is next up on PTL. Hi, Finkel.
Hey, thanks for letting me on. My question is, for the MAGAs out there, where is the line? They're going after citizens with brain cancer. They're going after judges. They're going after law firms. When do they have to come after you? And the reason I have to ask that is I have a coworker who's a big Trump supporter, and he came after our company. And he and I had a discussion about it, and he says, that's the only thing that bothers me is he's coming after our company. I'm like, what about all the other stuff out there? He says, oh, that's all fine. So the line isn't even drawn.
What an idiot. Okay, well, this is your boss. Your boss is an idiot. So first of all,
not my boss.
Oh, okay. One of your coworkers is a complete imbecile. So first of all, that's what you call a selfish, ill-informed, uneducated voter. Until it happens to me, he is completely complicit to what took place on January 6th. He's complicit to the tariffs. He certainly is complicit when it comes to attacking women on looks, attacking people of color, attacking Gold Star families, calling our brave men and women suckers and losers. And I know MAGA, oh, no, he never said that. Well, guess what? I'll take General Kelly over anything Donald Trump says. Obviously, he's either extremely selfish and a selfish SOB, or ignorant and uneducated, or maybe a little bit of both. But it sounds like your coworker's a complete idiot, and I wish they would deport him to Gaza, it sounds like to me.
Yes. Well, thanks for hearing me out.
All right, my friend, I appreciate you. Yeah, tell your coworker to call in. I'll give him a piece of my mind. Please do that. Have him call into this show. Selfish SOB. Anyway, thanks for the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Mark, who's calling out of Pennsylvania. Hey, Mark, what's going on, man?
Hello, Brian.
Hey, what's
I had a couple of things on my mind, but some of these callers are throwing me off. I want to make a comment about Veterans Day, but the first thing I want to do is mention to that lady who lives upstate, who claims she has a lot of MAGA friends and family, and I just like to be nice and talk to them. You know what, lady? I'm not getting on your case. I'm not going to curse you. I'm not going to do anything like that, but you're complacent. If you don't start standing up and fighting against your friends and your family, I lost family members because I was not complacent. You're just going along with them, and they're destroying the country that you live in, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to say about that.
Yep.
Now, to you ignorant veterans, you ignorant on duty, you ignorant people who separated from the military, that he's taken away your Veterans Day. To the veterans, he's taken away your day. And you know what he's going to name it? And I figured out why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to name it Victory Day in celebration of World War I. World War I? Do you know why, Brian?
Tell me.
Because Russia was fighting on our side. He's paying homage to Putin and his country. That's the real meaning behind it.
Wait a second. Wait a second. The MAGA Republicans say nobody's more tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. Isn't that what they say?
Well, they say a lot of things because whatever Trump says, they repeat. If Trump said the sky is green, they'll say, oh, I saw it green yesterday. I swear it's green. They'll agree with anything that this clown says.
Oh, guess what?
And I'm a veteran, and you ignorant sons of bitches who are veterans, and you still stand with Trump. I don't respect you. I don't respect your uniform, and I don't respect anything you've done in life.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Mark. I agree with you, and of course, we always appreciate your service to this country, Mark. And thank you so much. And I feel your passion, my friend. I really do, and I love it. Let's go to Al. Al is next up on PTL. Hello, Al.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm a Trump supporter. And all the Latino community wants to wish Trump and America happy Cinco de Mayo. And we want to thank Trump for mentioning that on social media. And we're very happy with the job that Trump is doing and how he's supporting the Hispanic community.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you're happy with what Donald Trump has done in the first 100 days. Al, I think we could have a good conversation about that. So, Al, are you comfortable with the economy right now and what these tariffs have done to small businesses and people all over the place that have lost their jobs and lost their livelihoods and lost their 401ks and lost their stocks? Are you okay with the fact that President Xi won't pick up the phone and call Donald Trump? Are you okay with the fact that he said he was going to end the war within 24 hours and he's no closer ending it now than on day one? Are you okay with the fact that the Israel-Palestinian conflict is worse off now than it was on day one? Are you okay with the fact that he lied to you and he said no tax on tips? He lied to you and he said he would lower the price of inflation, and people like you believed him, and gas prices are actually up since day one, not down. Inflation is up since day one, not down, up 0.5%. Are you okay with any of those things that I just mentioned, or would you agree with me it's not good for the economy?
Well, I'm looking at the way the border is, and I'm very happy with that.
Didn't ask you about the border. Didn't ask you about the border. Al, I'm happy.
I don't have an opinion.
Al, I'm happy.
I don't have an opinion.
Al, so you're going to be a coward. So you're going to be a coward and hang up the phone. What an idiot. What an idiot. Okay, I'm so glad that Al called in. You imbecile. You see, when you confront somebody, a MAGA moron, and make no mistake about it, Al is a coward and a MAGA imbecile. You see what happens? They call into the show. They say they love what he's doing. And then I rattle off about 10 things that he's doing based on his policy that have hurt the country. And instead of Al addressing any of those issues, he brings up the border, and then he hangs up the phone. Because, number one, they're not smart enough to have a discussion. They're certainly not smart enough to have a debate with me. And they certainly can't defend their ridiculous positions. Oh, I don't want to talk about that, but let's talk about the border. Okay, imbecile, let's talk about the border, even though you're a coward and you hung up the phone. Let's talk about the fact that this country was founded on immigrants, yet he's giving people no due process. There was a woman last week that was breastfeeding her child. I think it was a Latino woman, by the way, Al, but you probably don't want to talk about this or you're unaware of it because you're an imbecile. She was breastfeeding her 1-year-old daughter who had health issues. They literally took her away while she was breastfeeding her 1-year-old daughter, did not give the daughter the opportunity to even go with her. This woman did not get due process. Oh, yeah, by the way, her husband is a legal citizen. You want to talk about immigration? Let's talk about immigration. Let's talk about the fact that he's going into synagogues and churches and schools and deporting a bunch of nonviolent criminals. Let's talk about the fact that he's sending some people to one of the highest maximum security prisons in the world with no due process. A man where the Supreme Court voted 9-0 that this Maryland man needs to be expedited back to the United States of America, and Donald Trump is not doing so. You want to talk about immigration? Let's talk about immigration. That you have so many people in this country that overstay their visas, but they're not brown people, many of them. So Donald Trump doesn't care about that, but he wants to talk about the border. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact how he decided not to tell the Republicans not to vote for this bipartisan border bill. Let's talk about that. But you see, you don't want to talk about those issues. You happen to be a Latino man yourself, and you're despicable because you're okay with people of color not getting due process. You're okay with people that look like you that are in this country that might have a spouse that is a legal citizen, that might have kids that are legal citizens, getting deported with no due process. You're okay with a human being, legal or not getting due process, and you have the gall and the stupidity to call into this show and say, I like what he's doing on immigration, and then hang up the phone like the imbecile coward that you are. Don't call back into the show unless you have the guts to be able to have a conversation with me. Otherwise, go fly a kite, dude. And I hope they deport you. And I hope they send you to El Salvador, quite frankly. What do you think about that? Maybe you don't deserve due process because you're perfectly okay with others not getting due process. You sound like an imbecile. Get the hell out of here then. What do you think about that? And I don't care where you're from. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care what country you were born. If you are that stupid of a human being, for me to list a number of different things that Donald Trump is doing to this country and the damage that he's costing this country, and you don't want to address any of those issues, and your only stupid statement is, I like what he's doing with immigration, then you're an idiot. So go move to Gaza, go move to Russia and hang out with your boy Vladimir Putin, because we all know how close you guys are to Russia and how badly you want Russia to win this war. And don't call back into the show, and have a nice day. And God forbid they treat you in Russia like they treated Brittany Griner. But unlike them, I won't ask you to stay there in prison because, you know, many of the MAGA Republicans like yourself who attacked a woman because she's a woman of color and because she happens to be a lesbian, you see, I'm not like that, Al. I don't want Americans, with all seriousness, to be prisoners in Russia, no matter whether you're a MAGA supporter or not, no matter what the color of your skin is, in all seriousness. But don't ever call into this show again. I've had it with you. If you're not willing to have a conversation and you sound like the idiot that you are, have a nice day. He's done nothing for Latinos. You couldn't name one thing. And he certainly has done nothing for people that look like you, only threaten people like you and threaten deportation and maybe even members of your family. Have a nice day and go ahead and call into your right-wing echo chamber radio shows. I could care less with 3 listeners, but don't block one of my phone lines for an intelligent caller so some moron like you could call in and embarrass yourself. Have a nice day. You frickin' idiot. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. What's up, Dave?
Well, Brian, I hope your blood pressure comes down after your call with Al. But you know what? Here, I'm going to kind of lighten the mood a little bit for you, try to get you in a good mood. You know how he did his May the 4th picture. Tomorrow is May the 5th, so he'll probably have a picture of him, and maybe Al could just take that poster of him as a 5th and just jack off to it. I'm sorry, I didn't need that.
That's okay. I think there's a lot of people that call into the show that ask me what type of bed I live in, and I think they do the same thing to me with a little poster right there. I think they bought my "Don't Be a Right-Wing Buffoon" shirt, and I think they pleasure themselves to that. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. I digress, sir. Go ahead.
But anyways, the reason I'm calling is I was just going to say, you know, the whole picture of him as the Pope.
Yes.
I like literally live across the street from a Catholic church. I'm Lutheran, by the way. And I have a lot of neighbors around here that go to that church. You would not be shocked how much the Catholic diocese out over here is not happy with the man. There's a lot of Catholics that I have a feeling he might have pushed his. He pushed.
Can I ask you a question?
A little too hard.
This church that you live across the street from. Have you ever seen Donald Trump hold the Bible upside down in front of the church? Have you ever seen him do that? I'm just curious.
No, actually, I see him like driving with their Trump flags going upside down with the Bible. So no.
Isn't it interesting that these right-wing evangelicals who call themselves people of Jesus or God or whatever they believe in, they actually think that they're okay with Donald Trump selling Bibles for $60. They're okay with him not being able to recite one word in the Bible, but claims that it's his favorite book. Even the Declaration of Independence in the Oval Office, here is reaction to what does that mean to you, sir? And his idiocy, he doesn't even know what it is. I mean, this guy couldn't pass a 4th grade geography class or civics class, and this is the guy who's the president of the United States. He's really not a smart guy. He's actually very uneducated, Donald Trump. He's very good at manipulating the media, but I don't find him to be an extremely intelligent person by any means. He sounds very ignorant.
Well, actually, I was going to tell you, there is a test you can't pass.
What's that?
And you're probably, I heard he could pass the dementia test with flying colors. Yeah. That he does have it.
I think he can win maybe in a hot dog eating contest or maybe some sort of chicken eating contest at KFC. That's probably the only contest he could win. Or
a Big Mac.
Yeah, or a Big Mac. You're right. My friend, Dave, it's good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate the call. You stay safe out there, my friend. I like you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Jason is next up on PTL. Jason, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, Brian, how you doing today?
Good.
Hey, Al, if you're listening, this is for you and all your MAGA clowns out there. There is a body part on the female that has over 8,000 nerve endings, and you MAGA Christians aren't even near as sensitive as that thing, or more sensitive than that.
Well,
but anyway,
they're not people of empathy, that's for sure. But then again, it was Donald Trump who bragged about grabbing those body parts. You can do it because you're a celebrity. I mean, he bragged. It's just
the MAGA men don't know nothing about a woman's sensitive.
Well, that's true.
Anyway, that's for another conversation.
That's true. But they do want to tell women what to do with their own bodies, though. I do find that very interesting. That it's usually middle-aged men that want to tell women what to do with their bodies. I do find that very interesting.
And also, the Kentucky Derby was this weekend, and the winner of Sovereignty, Trump wants to always get a photo op, so he invited him to the White House. Of course, he come back. He said, "Look, if I wanted to see the rear end of a horse's ass," he said, "I'd have finished second."
That's funny. I needed a good laugh.
But anyways, I went to the VA today, and I'm 10 minutes away, and this just shows that there is being cuts made to the VA. It's a mental health appointment, and I've been seeing my doctor for 7-8 years, and we get comfortable with our doctor. Well, I'm 10 minutes away, and I get a phone call. Well, she's out today. I said, well, look, I'm already this close. I'm going to come on in because I'm over an hour away. And so they found me with someone else, and I got to talking to her, and she said, well, there's 7 of them out today. I said, what's going on? She said, well, we don't know what's going on. So then I, just let it go, went to fill out my travel paperwork, always by paper. She said, you have to do it online. I said, what? I said, what do I go to? She said, well, ID.com or something. And I said, all this is for so the people will not fill that out. So they're claiming federal funding, waste and abuse. She said, well, you're catching on to the grist there. I said, because these elder folks, veterans, they aren't going to hop online and fill out their travel pay.
You know what's so sad when I hear these stories is that this is the same guy who went to the Super Bowl and spent $25 million, or I think it was like $25 or $50 million in taxpayer money.
Yes.
This is the same guy who goes to Mar-a-Lago, it seems like every week, and goes to play golf. And you want to talk about fraud and abuse, and yet they have the nerve to tell us that they want to cut some of our benefits. And they think, and somebody like an Elon Musk, and many of these MAGA Republicans think like this, by the way, like Elon Musk thinks like this, that he thinks that medical benefits is some sort of privilege, and that we think of it as some sort of entitlement, that it's an entitlement to get the health care that you deserve. Like Social Security is an entitlement. People buy into it their entire lives and they work hard. But you see, Donald Trump doesn't know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, and Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. Thank you for your call, my friend. I really do appreciate you. Let's go to Susan. Susan is next up on PTL. Hey, Susan, what's going on? Suzanne, I'm sorry. Hi, Suzanne. What's going on?
Hey. Well, I am calling because I really love your show.
Thank you.
And you tell it just as it is. And the older I get, the more I get that way.
Yeah.
I've had it with him. I feel shame over our country. I feel ashamed every day. I never know what he's going to do to make me feel ashamed of being in this country.
And it's not even that. I mean, he attacks women. He attacks people of color.
Yeah.
He attacks
And he
women
gets
on
away
looks.
with it.
Yeah, and he gets
and
away with it.
And that's what I wanted to say is he gets away with everything. Yep. I remember I thought he was doomed when the Mueller report came out. I thought, gotcha. Got to get you.
The Teflon orangutan. That's my new nickname for him. What do you think?
A Teflon orangutan?
Yeah, the Teflon
I don't know. I think it
Yeah, go ahead.
has to be something a little more slippery, I think, honey. But anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what. You come
know.
up with a new nickname, and then I'll use it, okay?
Okay. And you're right. We do need to stand up. I lost a friend during the election because I told her, I said, if you vote for Trump, you can't, we don't have any common friendship.
Yeah.
And she voted for him, and she just said, I don't see why you'd feel that way. He's just wonderful. And I said, if you can vote for a man that has done, I mean, you've listed all the different things he's done. I'm not going to go through it.
Right.
I said, we don't have the same values. I just can't be your friend. And that was really hard to do.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
But I felt like
it takes some courage to do it as well, though.
Well, I just think, like you say, we have to stand up in our own ways. I mean,
damn right.
He keeps getting away with everything. And then probably the last thing, I do have to say this, though. I'm also very ashamed at how Ukraine has gotten treated and the people of Ukraine. This Donald Trump and how he's not kept the military there.
Yeah.
Just really upsets me. And this military.
He's called Zelensky a dictator. He said Ukraine started it. He's coddled Vladimir Putin, and every time he says Putin wants peace, there's another airstrike where innocent people lose their lives. I mean, it's embarrassing on a regular, everyday basis, ma'am. Get your friend to call into this show. Maybe I can convert her to some sense of normalcy. But it sounds like she's long gone, and you sound like a very lovely lady and very intelligent. And quite frankly, you probably deserve better, and you need to hang out with better friends. I appreciate your call, my dear. Please call back anytime. Let's go to Miguel. Miguel is next up on PTL. Hey, Miguel, what's going on?
Hi, how are you, sir?
Good.
I just like to say something about the caller who said about the Cinco de Mayo thing. Congratulate to happy Cinco de Mayo to Trump.
Yeah.
I don't think he doesn't even know what the hell Cinco de Mayo is all about.
He probably doesn't.
Miguel. He doesn't.
Miguel, do you notice when I name like 10 things that Donald Trump has done in the last 3 months that are hurting American people and hurting the economy? He didn't want to address any of them, and he just says the border. I mean, and this is a Latino man, which makes it even worse, doesn't it?
Yes, and I was born in Mexico, and I'm a veteran. I serve this country.
Thank you.
And I'm very disappointed even for the active military and even some veterans that they vote for this guy. It's just hard to believe, and now he's putting so many troops along the border. What is he going to plan to do with all those troops?
That's a really good question, but he also says he wants to put boots on the ground in Greenland. So and he wants to own MAGA. Or I'm sorry, he wants to own. Well, he does own MAGA, but he wants to own like Gaza. This man is not a serious man. He's a mentally deranged man. He's a very mentally deranged man who's sick, and he happens to have more power than anybody else in this country. And the Supreme Court ruled to give him immunity, which is even more dangerous.
Exactly. But the thing is, let's go back to Biden. I wish Biden could have done something when the Supreme Court awarded his unlimited powers to Trump. He had the right to have him.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, he did.
And he didn't do nothing about it.
Listen, I've said this, Miguel, I've said this before, and thank you for the call, by the way, Miguel. It's good to hear from you. I've said this about Joe Biden before. I'll say it again. I think Joe Biden's a decent man of compassion with a lovely wife. But I'm disappointed in Joe Biden for a lot of different reasons. Number one, I thought he was a good president, but he should have stepped down much sooner. And no question, there were mistakes that he made. And, maybe if he steps down earlier, maybe Donald Trump doesn't become the president of the United States again. I've said that before. I'll say it again. Let's go to Eric. Eric is next up on PTL. Hey, Eric, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? Good job on the Latino for Trump guy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give a couple examples. I drive truck. I'm local, so I'm home every day, but it's called LTO, so I have a lot of stops. I've been to 3 places today that are going out of business within a week. On top of that, here's a good example of Tariffs. I bought a watch 8 days ago that was $32 on TikTok shop. Speaking of TikTok.
Yep.
I saw it on TikTok. Well, I don't sell it anymore. Today it was $77, $78.
Wow.
Change.
That's wild.
So, because it didn't charge right, so I was going to send it back and get a different one. So that's how tariffs affect people.
Donald Trump doesn't
and the
care.
constant people that keep saying, and the people that constantly say, "Oh, it's going to change. We just got to take it for a minute." They're morons.
Complete morons. They don't understand the damage that Donald Trump.
I don't even, like that last caller said, I don't even allow people that voted for him to come in my home.
Yeah.
And that not because it's just because there's like 2 days a week I'm drained with the stupidity.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. If Matt Gaetz rang your doorbell, leave your children, get your children out of there and keep them away. I would say if three-toe Marjorie Taylor Greene knocks on the door, you certainly don't want her around your kids. If Lauren Boebert knocks on your door and she asks you to go to Beetlejuice, especially if although that might be somewhat entertaining, I'll be honest with you. But listen, these, in all seriousness, though, these are despicable people. These are people that cannot be bothered with facts. These are people that are dangerous, quite frankly. They're dangerous, my friend. And I'm so glad you called in, and I'm glad that there's people like you, Eric. I really appreciate your phone call. Thank you so much. All right, who are we going to next here? 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to John. John is next up on PTL. Hey, John, what's going on?
Hey there. I just wanted to bring one major thing up. I have a cousin who's ultra MAGA. They know he lies. Don't think they don't know he lies. Some of them really know he lies. And like I asked my cousin, I'm like, but he lies. He goes, I don't care. He lies. He lies for us. He gets us the things we want. If he has to lie, we don't care. And I mean, but this is the mindset we're dealing with. Not all of them are, because, I'm the first to say, oh, they're all dumb. They're all dumb. No, they're not. They're not. They know how to work it. And they know this man will lie for them. And he says he lies for us. Now, I'm Italian. I'm first generation Italian. Both my parents educated. One side of the family is the cultured side of the family. The other side is the stereotypical Goomba Italian side of the family. The Goomba side, who my ultra MAGA cousin says, he gets away with what we want to get away with.
Right.
I think we also have to put that in our minds. Not only are, because I think we're all too quick to say, oh, they're dense, they're dim. Nah, not all of them are dense and dim. Some of them know about the lies. Number two, they want to get away with the same things he gets away with.
Right.
And I said to him, Mike, you're giving Italians a bad name. He goes, I don't care. And I said, well, I do. You're the reason why the Italians, everyone says, you're all in the mafia, you're all such ginzos. You're the reason why. And he goes, well, you know what? Maybe we are.
Well, you know what?
And,
Donald Trump is Tony Soprano. Donald Trump is a mobster. The difference is he's running the country. He's not just running a mob ring. He's running the country. He is the dictator. He is a wannabe dictator. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to PC. PC is next up on PTL. Hi, PC. What's going on?
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I'm a long-time listener, but never get to call because I'm working, actually. But
I'm glad you called in.
Well, yeah, as great as you debate, which a lot of these right-wing talk shows never want to debate. You ask them a simple question like, and it's something that all Americans, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, but a simple question like, how many amendments to the Constitution are there? I swear, Brian, I never get not one person that gives me the right answer.
Neither could Donald Trump answer that question either, by the way.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm a Democrat I live in Ohio, and it was a big steel town, and blah, blah, blah. It was a Democratic area. But, I never, my mom and dad were staunch Democrats, and I never believed that you should vote along party lines. Just if a guy's an idiot, he's an idiot. So you don't, so my very first vote was Ronald Reagan. So that tells you that I'm not dedicated to any party. I'm dedicated to the country. I served, my brother served, my dad served. My dad grew up in the time where Mexican Americans were treated like black people back in the days, So, but he was real quiet about it. He didn't tell me about it, until he passed away. He told my wife everything. For some reason, didn't want to tell none of his kids. It was really kind of strange. But
well, let me just say thank you for members of your family and serving and serving this country, so that idiots like me can be on the radio every day and do what I do. So I do appreciate.
Here's the thing. I'll be the first one to tell you. I didn't join the service to serve my country. I didn't. That'd be a total lie. See, I'm not afraid to be honest. I had a dad that either went to college, went to work, and if you lived at home, you paid rent.
Right.
So I decided, military sounds like a good thing. So I did it. I'm glad I did it. And understand why people overseas hate Americans. I really do.
Yeah, well,
and it's even worse now.
I was just going to say that. You took the words out of my mouth. Well, thank you for your service, sir. You're absolutely a hero. And I hope that you can call in again when we have a little bit more time, my friend. I know you're working, but I do appreciate you taking the time to call in. And thank you for being a loyal listener. We love you, sir. We appreciate you, as we do all of the YouTube super chatters like Shelly, who says, Brian, I lost that one. Lady D says Stephen Miller and his foundation filed a lawsuit for Trump against SCOTUS Roberts to place the judiciary under the executive branch so he could fire and hire judges he wants. Thank you, Lady D, for your support of the show. Lori says reporters going back to voters who vote for Trump and asked if they would still vote for him. Shelley said Brian Trump said Lori said reporters going back to voters who vote for Trump and ask if they would still vote for him, and they still vote for him. Well, Lori, you're right about that. It's absolutely and positively mesmerizing. Riot Town says, when did the Doge checks go out? That's actually a really good question, by the way. I don't know. I thought they were getting like $5,000, right? Depression is coming, says non-useful. I can smell it. Yes, it is. I think it's fair to say a recession is coming. So I certainly tend to agree with you on that one. I wish we were wrong, my friend, but sadly, I think you're 150% correct on that one. So appreciate that. Reaver says, Trump's whole, why can't you just stop fighting back and love me? Why do you make me hurt you? Approach perplexes me. But when I remember, he's as I would say, sexual abuser. Reaver, you are 150% correct. And I certainly appreciate your support as well. Also, thanks to Jeff in the email who says, Brian, love the show. I listen to it every day. He went on pushingthelimits.live. We appreciate your support. Sir Seuss says, saw this funny headline on social media over the weekend. President Trump expected to rename San Andreas Fault to Joe Biden's fault. That's actually very funny, Sir Seuss, and we certainly do appreciate your support of the show as well. I think Mr. Fogelsong is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. We're just trying to confirm that. Thank you, Dennis, with your very nice contribution. Says the Continental Congress faced hanging to do the right thing. Today, they're afraid of being primaried. They say they're patriots. They're cowards. You are 150% correct. They only care about their own, and they care about remaining in power and at no cost. You're absolutely correct. Please check out my website. I get a lot of people that say, how can I do a little bit more and support what we do? The website's right there on the bottom, pushingthelimits.live. We are going to surpass maybe 100,000 subscribers as early as tomorrow. I think we're at something like 98.5 right now. So about another 1,500 subscribers. It's at PTL Radio Show. Again, at PTL Radio Show. Thank you to Yummy for doing a great job in moderating in our TikTok chat. We appreciate you for doing that. Again, the website's pushingthelimits.live. We want to pass 100 PASH. What's PASH? I'm starting to sound like Donald Trump now. The United States of America. I'm starting to sound like Trump. But anyway, I'll never sound like Trump. I promise. Tomorrow on the program, looking forward to it. Same time, same place. Follow me on YouTube at PTL Radio. So my website is pushingthelimits.live. Thank you all. Thank you to moderator Yummy, who did a phenomenal job as always. I might keep the TikTok going a little bit longer. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine.